Happy World Teachers Day! Yay! It's another year where we place the focus on teachers. Just so great, right? Yes, another 365 days of, experimenting and just loving what we do, impacting children. Okay, so this year the theme is the transformation of education begins with teachers. Such an interesting theme. I was almost thinking you'll not get to this point, but yay. And so this year, because I just particularly love the theme, I decided to, share a few bits of wisdom that we are already familiar with. And I'm certain these words will only jumpstart the consciousness of what we already know. Wisdom, or I will not call it wisdom, knowledge we already know that needs to be transferred or transformed into, wisdom. I said that because when you know something, that's knowledge. When you can apply that thing, now that's wisdom. So transformation has to do with a lot of elements, but I decided to, summarize these elements into 6 nuggets. And so I'm going to be sharing that with everyone. So welcome on board. And the first would be desire. Desire. So as a teacher, if you really want to make a change in yourself, with your learners, those who listen to you, and then in the system, it's got to start with desire. How much do you want to change? How much transformation do you want? You see, it's your desire that would automatically fuel the change that you want to see. Because changes, transformations does not come in easily. They're going to meet with roadblocks, they're going to meet with resistance. People naturally do not want to embrace change. And you're bringing that to the table because that's what you do every day. You've got to combat with behaviors, with cultures, just to establish, morally acceptable behaviors and learning patterns. And if your desire is not strong enough, you would cave in, you would give up. So, desire that has to do start with you. You have to desire the change for yourself. You have to desire the change for for your students. You have to desire the change for the system, but it starts with you. And then that desire moves up to wanting to see changes in your students. So you've got to desire to see your students excel, to see them, accomplish, all they have been designed to accomplish. And that picture is almost endless. It's as vivid and as far as your imagination can go, right? So don't mind the noise. I'm actually in a school, so yes. So it's as vivid as your mind can go. And then once you start with you and it goes on to the students, then you can then progress into a system. It starts with you, it grows to your listeners, your students, your learners, then it escalates into, the system. And then real changes can happen. So if every one of us teachers work in our unit places and do the needful, and which is start with the desire to want transformation to really occur, then voila, it occurs. Okay, so let's move on to the next. Here is information, and let me just call that up. Information. A prepared teacher is an informed teacher. So I'm a convener of a prepared teacher series, and there's a lot going on the ground to launch out a number of materials to keep teachers prepared for the amazing learners they're going to come in contact with. Okay, so a prepared teacher is an informed teacher. An informed teacher can effect real changes. So, this year we are calling on teachers to be informed, be informed. And As I was doing my research, I had to bring out this very important point. And the Latin word inform actually means to shape or give form to shape or give form to. So the knowledge that we pass down to children shapes them and gives them form. Interesting, right? Imagine if you're passing down half-baked knowledge, if you're passing down inconsistent knowledge with what is supposed to be obtainable, you know, that would give them form to take on their world. So a teacher should understand that their words are really heavy and they shape the lives of the children before them. You can't come to class unprepared. You you know the common notion that there's no need for me to prepare, especially when we have to deal with early years and the primary school, elementary school for some. You have teachers who feel okay, so you can just walk in and take on sounds, isn't it? you know, you've got to prepare. You've got to prepare. You've got to be informed with the effective strategies to pass down this information. If you're not prepared, then transformation can't happen in your class. And then you wonder, why is this child not learning? So that's why we had to start with the first one, desire. You've got to desire it, and then desire will push you to want to gather the right information that will spare, a change, real transformation in your class. Okay, so on to the next. Um, so the third is corresponding action. So I start off with this quote, and it says, "Why do I have to keep practicing? I already know it. Why do I have to keep practicing? I already know it." Says who? Says who? So, by the grace of God, I have been teaching the last 20 years. So, by the grace of God, I'm 20 years in the education sector. And I know that still being in the classroom, because I still am in the classroom, I always seek to learn and to practice. Because, funny enough, that singular information that we get on strategies of passing down information, we don't entirely use it. So, imagine being stuck in a pattern. And so, because you learn that I could probably use um, plug a kettle to electricity to show the process of evaporation. I just stop there. There are other beautiful, very creative, very fun ways of treating the water cycle other than plugging to the electricity. That's good in itself. But imagine you're stuck there and saying, why do I have to keep practicing other methods? I know it already. So you get to see how change of states happen. So, yes, and also note that the same strategy doesn't equal same results every other time. Reason you must learn and give, corresponding action. I put in a lot of things, and there's stuff like audience effect. So what's audience effect? Effect is that ability to have practice over time, such that when you come before people, you tend to do it better than you know the way you learned it, and that stems from putting your muscular, you know energies to work. So you practice and practice to the point where you come before your students. And so I'm going to use, for instance, comprehension. So if you are in a school that uses the British curriculum, you probably would relate more with what I'm saying. Apologies to any other curriculum. I feel it's even a lot, easier to deal with, even though it's still the same principle. Please, it can be very wonderfully funny. The twist and dynamics of comprehension. So for comprehension, with the British curriculum, you would have to practice that passage. You would have to understand it as a teacher. You would have to, all the figurative language, all the tenses used, the flow of the story. Oftentimes, we have parts of this story structure, being meshed up. Oftentimes, the story is starting off with a conflict. The 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 the, the features of the text, all of these things have to come into consideration. And so you need to practice that with that passage, understand it for yourself. And then when you come before your children, you have what I call the audience effect, which is you are able to facilitate that class. I didn't say teach it. Facilitate that class where you are robust. You are robust. And I'm coming to, the aspect of, there's some element I'm going to come to that allows you just have that robust vocabulary to drive your children. You give them clues that drives them to, you know, excellence in deriving or deducing their conclusion. And so your comprehension class is not a hit and run guesswork. Sit your ears, around that very brilliant child will probably give one cute answer that looks like the correct thing. So mental efficiency. So the more you practice, the more you reduce the strain on your brain, right? To allowing it to do more things. So I know how, I've understood by practice how to deal with my comprehension classes. And so I can accommodate other things. I can accommodate a child who is struggling with spelling. I know how to step it down. I know what to use, how to check, their reading levels. I can provide support properly. I can, you know, create a spur in a moment solution almost, because my brain is not saturated with trying to, don't disturb me, let's finish with this one first. So in your classroom you have a lot to deal with, and so your brain just allows you put everything into context, and so mental efficiency is one of the benefits, from corresponding action. When you act out what you learn and you practice it and practice it and practice it, mental efficiency becomes, one of the benefits. Results, it breeds results, corresponding action. You see a man, or let me leave that man, a teacher who always acts out what they learn. They are result oriented teachers, they are dependable teachers, they are prepared teachers. So you see them acting. I'm not going to overflog this because they're teachers who act outside what they're supposed to be doing. But I'm telling you, teachers who are in line, who act out what they learn. Very interesting, very, very interesting um, benefits there. They are, people of results, professionals of results. Another is triggers transformation. So the transformation, which is the key theme for this year's World Teachers Day, is, you know, the whole teachers as agents of transformation. Yeah. So indeed, transformation does happen, and that's basically what we want. That's the result we want to get. That there is a change. There is transformation. Okay, and then someone or a teacher who acts on what they learn is a model. Any day, any time. That teacher is such an amazing model, not only to the children before them, to their colleagues, and then the entire society. So, beautiful model you are if you're a teacher that acts on what you learn. And then the final one, it eliminates excuses and puts you at the top seat of those who effect real changes. You are not a man or a woman of excuses. You're not a teacher of excuses. You're the teacher who is a goal getter, a teacher who talks and does it, who walks the talk. So you walk your talk, and then we salute all teachers who act on what they learn. So that's it for corresponding action. So on to the next. And to the next, I put here association. Association is the next for me. Association, yes. So it's an important element, right? Your association as a teacher matters. If you're a Christian, you would know that the Bible is big on who you ride with, who you company with, who you keep company with, right? So as a teacher, your company really matters. It's important that you keep the right company. Very important that you keep the right company. And um, I put it this way: you can lose with a good company. Yeah, you could lose, but you cannot excel with a bad one. No. So it's very important, even for school owners, when you're building your team of teachers, you will definitely not win with bad crops of teachers. And thankfully, I'm very grateful that the new generation is arising, and new hearts are, opening up to just want that transformation really badly. For this thing to come up at this time, I just believe that the energy for transformation is really high. Not the need of it, but the awareness of it. And that's what created this thing. So please, even as teachers in your little circles, do not hang out with teachers that would not sharpen you to be a better version of yourself. You do not need to hang around those teachers for whatever reason. You know, as long as it's this profession, you need to stick with those who know, who are passionate, who have this firm desire to want to see real transformation happening in their lives, with their learners, and then ultimately in the entire system, especially with the system here in our own country. So um, hang out with purpose-driven teachers. I think that captures it, right? Captures it. Hang out with purpose-driven teachers. Purpose-driven teachers. Associate yourself with those sorts of teachers. I promise you would have a lot of aha moments yourself. Awesome. Your association is key. Okay, then on to the next. And so the final one I have reflection. So I left that as the last reflection. So this is what I have on reflection. So let me bring that up. Very interesting. And then I put three things that helps me when I'm talking about the concept of reflection. And that's to build, then pause, and evaluate. So I evaluate for a couple of things, and those ones just stick in my head. So I evaluate for adjustment. I evaluate for feedback. So I evaluate that means I observe, to adjust, and then for feedback. improvements. So there's this interesting quote: without reflection, we go blindly on our way. Without reflection, we go blindly on our way, creating more unintended consequences, creating more unintended consequences, and failing to achieve anything useful. So let's just use the literal reflection, and then I'll use our regular mirrors as ladies, right? And just before I had this short shoot, I had to look myself up in the mirror and then, look at my reflection. How am I looking? Imagine I turned up a little bit of my makeup without looking at my reflection. I would have probably created an unintended diagram on my face, and then I will fail to achieve the beauty I want to get just looking at your beautiful faces, hoping that you're looking at mine and appreciating it. On the screen. Reflection is key. So when I'm molding, I'm facilitating the class for molding these children and creating the interest to want to know more even outside my classroom walls. I need to facilitate, pause, and check: are they getting it? What are they producing that shows me that they are getting it? Do I need to use more vocabulary? Right? And that's what reflection does, that I was saying earlier on. Because you've read for information, you are an informed teacher. And that's what reading does for you, remember? And information was at number two, desire one, information two. And information is key because it gives you the words to express your intention, your thoughts, your imagination, what you want to see, you know, and it helps you better paint a picture in another human's mind. And remember, children are human beings, they're not just children. So they have their own imagination. And the more you learn, the more you have the words to better communicate your thoughts and intents, right? So um, back to us. So you build, you want to pause to see if, okay, the outcome, is it as expected? If it's as expected, I want to improve further on it. If it's not as expected, I want to make my adjustments. But between my adjustments and my improvement is the feedback. Feedback either by asking orally, feedback either by looking at what they're producing, you know, whether collaboratively or individually, you are constantly seeking feedback, one for adjustment and the other for improvement. Okay, so this is just a short clip I have on, you know, Teachers Day this year, and I'm hoping that we go back to our different stations and effect real changes. Be full of desire. Then desire without information is utter foolishness. Something comes into heart as I speak about, a wise teacher versus a foolish teacher. In the book of Proverbs, we are clearly told that when a fool is passing down information, it's like poison or breaking, the foot of someone. That's how terrible um, a foolish teacher can be. It's so terrible. You see, if you have an uninformed, unprepared teacher, you are actually poisoning a generation. You are breaking the leg, the growth of a society. So transformation is key. Your desire to want it, your desire propels the commitment that must be invested in the information that is required to effect real transformation and the work that is needed to be done. The work that is needed to be done. And every year I can't live without saying prayer. The ultimate teacher is the Holy Spirit, and I pray right now for all teachers in every walks of life, at all levels of learning, that the Spirit of God that founded the earth, will direct our minds and He will strengthen our spirits to go for the best and be the best versions of ourselves so that we can actually enforce real changes in our workspaces. God bless all teachers. The Lord cause the works of your hands to prosper. The Lord cause you to excel and make huge impact right where you are in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.